Hello, thank you for being with us.
Okay.
This is an oral history interview conducted for the Witness to War Serving a Nation project at Nauset Regional High School on Cape Cod, Massachusetts. For the sake of this interview, please state your full name and community in which you now reside.
John Gary Bellnier from Plymouth, Massachusetts.
How did you end up on Plymouth?
Um, we decided to downsize from our 5-bedroom house in Brookfield, Connecticut a few years ago and selected Plymouth as being close to both Rhode Island and Cape Cod, places where our families are.
Where did you attend high school and college?
I went to high school in Albany, New York. I'm born in Catskill, New York, and so I was living in upstate New York. Went to high school, Albany, Vincentian Institute, which is an all-male Catholic school, for 3 years. Then I transferred to Cardinal McCluskey, also in Albany, a Catholic co-ed school. And then I went directly into the Air Force after that. I went to college after the Air Force. I went to Holyoke Community College for a year and then transferred to UMass, where I graduated.
What did you study there?
Physics is my major.
Were you involved in any extracurricular activities in school?
Well, I was married and a commuting student, so I had a 3-family house and using the GI Bill to survive. So I did a lot of odd jobs. If somebody had to have their muffler replaced, I'd replace it for $20. I did odd jobs. I worked for the post office sometimes. So I wasn't involved in any sports or extra, really. Although I did do one summer, I got a grant from National Science Foundation to do a study of cosmic rays.
Wow.
We built a detector and did physics.
Were you drafted or did you enlist?
I enlisted.
And why did you enlist? Did anyone encourage you to do so? What made you enlist?
Well, I'd gone to high school, was not having a good time. I didn't like school. And I was supposed to go to college, but I hated the whole notion of it. I just wanted to do something different. I wanted to be, I was interested in electronics, and so I thought I should go in the military and get into an electronics program, which I did. And I was toying with the Marines, Navy, and then selected the Air Force.
When I say the word Vietnam, what comes to mind?
Vietnam Wall, 50-something thousand dead. Not a pleasant memory.
Why did you choose the Air Force as opposed to anything else?
It had the best technology opportunities to learn electronics, and that was what I was interested in. I envisioned myself coming out of the Air Force and getting a job as a technician with IBM, which was in upstate New York, and thought that was the coolest thing to be a technician for IBM.
Where were you stationed in Vietnam?
I was not in Vietnam.
Oh, you were?
No, I was in Westover Air Force Base. My first assignment was Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas. That's where basic training was, and that's where my technical school training, which was a full year, learning to be a electronics repairman of electronic crypto equipment. And then I was stationed to Westover Air Force Base in Chicopee, Mass., which is where I served 3 years.
Can you tell us more about your training?
The training was involved with repairing of communications equipment. It was crypto, which means it was enciphering the data flow on teletype lines. And we studied 2 different styles of equipment. We had to learn how they worked. We had to learn basic electronics, and then we had to figure out how to fix them when they were screwed up. You know, if something was broken, we could troubleshoot it and make the repairs. It turned out that you didn't get a lot of chances to actually fix them. They were very, very reliable, unfortunately. And if you did have something go wrong, you replace a whole module card, so the job was so sitting around and sort of babysitting a quick piece of equipment that never failed. It's pretty boring. I did a lot of reading.
What was your uniform like?
The uniform for us were fatigues, the fatigue material, olive drab, boots, combat boots, black boots you had to have shined. There was a summer weight, 505s I think they were called, the summer weight khaki pants and shirt.
What is your happiest memory from serving?
Tech school. Mm-hmm. It was very good. If you were the top 3, got to choose their base where they were going to go. Mm-hmm. I was the second in the class, and was able to choose Westover. I wanted to get back east. But I really loved the learning and the instructors. Got along great with them. And I learned a lot about electronics. So for a geek, as good as it gets.
What was your darkest memory?
Oh. Nothing really bad ever really sort of happened, except, well, I did get busted and reduced in rank. I had gone off base, and a bunch of us were drinking in a diner in a parking lot, and the cops, pulled us over. And I wasn't driving; it wasn't my car, but nevertheless, we all ended up spending a night in Chicopee jail, and had to be brought back to the base, and I lost a stripe. Mm.
How did you feel about leaving home?
I was very excited to be going off into an adventure. Mm-hmm. I got there, it wasn't so pleasant. Basic training was, it's brutal.
What did you miss the most about home?
I had a girlfriend. Missed her. I don't know if I have anything that I could. I just wanted. I just wanted out of there because it were, the nature of basic training is that they kind of break you down, treat you like a dog, and you start to feel like a dog, mm-hmm. and then they sort of slowly give you back your confidence. You start being able to march good, follow orders, and do basic military things well, and then they start to praise you a little bit, and it feels good. You start to develop some pride. And by the time you're done with basic training and the electronic schooling, you feel like you're a man, and you're smart, and you're valuable, and it's a good feeling. I didn't feel like that before I went. It was a big change.
How was your relationship with your colleagues?
Well, I got along well. I'm kind of a jokester, mm-hmm. So had a lot of camaraderie.
Mm-hmm. Do you still keep in touch with them today?
There's a few. I'm on Facebook with maybe 5 different guys.
Mm-hmm. What was your living arrangement like when you were there?
In Westover, we were I was was assigned to the 18th Communications Squadron,
Mhm.
and we had a barracks with like 3 floors. Each floor had probably 24 rooms. Each room would hold up to 4 people. Um, so you'd have 3 or 2. I think I had 3. I had 2 roommates. And you just had basically a single locker and a desk that we all shared. There was no facilities in the room other than sleeping. You had to go down the hallway to use the latrine and the showers.
Mm-hmm. Did you have lots of free time, and how did you spend your free time?
Yeah, I had lots of free time. I mean, I had a '57 Chevy that I basically replaced every part on it at least twice. I mean, I was always working on my car, so that was a big part of it. They had some good facilities for auto repair, a shop where you could bring your car, and I think there was a fee, but it wasn't much. I mean, like you could, for $8, you could use the facility for a week, and had all the tools, and so I was like Joe Wrench. I loved working on my car.
What was your proudest moment from serving the Air Force?
Probably graduating second in the class in my basic electronics training.
Mm-hmm.
Felt pretty good. When you finish school, you got your first stripe. You know, out of you don't have any stripes when you're in basic training. Then you get your 1 stripe, and then at the end of tech school, you get your 2nd stripe. So that was cool, getting promoted. Not cool, getting demoted. Not cool. Very sad.
How many stripes did you have at the end of your military?
I got the 2nd one back, and that's just, right before I got out, I was promoted again.
While you were stationed, did you have access to pop culture and things that were going on at home, music and stuff like that?
Yeah. I actually had part-time jobs off base. Yeah, we went out. There was a few clubs in the area that we frequented with my buddies.
How did your expectations compare to the reality of war?
Like I said, the expectation for me personally was that I was going to get to be electronics repairman. I'm going to be doing repair work and learning how to improve my skills in that area. And I didn't get to really do much beyond the technical training. So it was. So that was the boring part. But I never did read a lot when I was in school. And I don't think I ever finished a book. And I started reading, ridiculous, reading all the time. Read all the classics in the 3 years that I was in Westover. Enjoyed it.
Did you receive any kind of rewards or things for your service?
I was an expert marksman. And I got a badge for that. But that's it. I didn't do much else to earn any awards.
How did you feel when you heard that the war was over?
Well, so I recall it was sort of a sad thing, the way it ended. I just can picture the pictures of the videos of helicopters being pushed off a ship and abandoning, trying to get people out of Saigon. It ended badly. was pointless. Wasn't a great feeling. It never really was something that felt good about.
What is Saigon?
Saigon was the city in South Vietnam, where it's the capital of South Vietnam, still is. So when we pulled out, we had to pull out our everything from Saigon.
How, what skills did you learn in the Air Force that you can still use today?
The electronics, the troubleshooting techniques, still involved in computers and in science. So I'd say that skill. The other thing was the regimented lifestyle required you to get organized and put all your things in one locker. So they still tease me, my sisters tease me about being combat ready. When I get up in the morning, I have to get dressed, fully dressed, even the shoes, before I come downstairs to have breakfast. And that was the thing. You had to fall out of the barracks combat ready. You weren't going back in.
Would you say overall being in the Air Force had a positive impact on your life?
Absolutely. I don't think I was, I was such an angry kid that I think I was going to get in trouble if I didn't. And so it gave me the discipline I needed. I think it's good for everybody. When I recommend you go into the Air Force right now.
What do you miss most about the Air Force?
There was as boring as it was, it was sort of stress-free. You didn't have to worry about getting a job, housing, or what you were going to eat. You were government property. They had to take care of you, so they housed, fed, and any kind of medical things you didn't have to worry about. It was sort of stress-free.
When you decided to enlist, did your parents support that decision?
Trying to remember if I even cared. I don't think I cared enough to, I didn't ask, I told my father that I was going in the Air Force. He didn't argue. Probably thinking, good, get out of here. No.
Does your current environment ever trigger memories from the war?
I can't say that, no.
If you could go back in time, would you do anything differently?
Yeah, I would have gone in the reserves instead of full-time enlisting. You could go into the Air Force as a reservist. You could go to basic training and serve 6 months of active duty, and then you just have to go to meetings for 6 years. And I remember thinking at the time, that's what I should have done. Because 4 years is just too long.
Could you explain your typical day being in the Air Force?
Well, we worked in a underground vault in Amherst, Massachusetts. There was a underground command center. It was underground so that it would be couldn't be destroyed, by enemy missiles. And it was there was 4 major command centers for the Air Force in the United States, and Westover was one of them. It was the 8th Air Force headquarters, and was one of the SAC bases, Strategic Air Command. And the communications between those 4 things and all the bases, I think there was like 90 different installations, the communications links were what we're responsible for maintaining. So I'd get up and catch a bus that would took us all up the, maybe 40, 50 of us. And we all had various jobs. I would go in the crypto room where, there'd be racks of 100 pieces of equipment. And they would have alarms on them. And if there was an alarm, you had to figure out what was wrong. So you'd go in there, and then there was maintenance duties. You're always mopping, shining the floors everywhere. Whatever your skill was. If you were a teletype operator, you would be shining the floors in the teletype room, and if you're a crypto operator, you'd be shining the floors in there, changing the air filters and maintenance stuff. On a given day, there was, like I said, was not a lot of repairs that needed to be done.
If I were to enlist in the Air Force, what advice would you give me?
Go in the reserves. Don't go for 4 years. Get the training and come back and serve in the reserves for 6 years. It's too disruptive.
Mm-hmm.
You can come back after 6 months and have the experience, and then go to school instead of going in 4 years out of your life where you don't get a chance to do your education. Although I really could have taken courses, the schedule allowed for you to be able to do that, and I did take a couple, but it's not like full-time school.
So what's the main difference between being in the reserves and what you did?
The commitment with the reserves, you go back home.
Mm-hmm.
You're done after 6 months, and then all you have to do is you serve. You go to, I think you have to serve a weekend a month, or something like that. I've forgotten now exactly what the requirements were, but it's a long period of, but you're home. You got a job, maybe you got going to school or whatever. You have your life, but you have this burden of having to go for a weekend a month kind of a thing for several years. But that's better than, I think, spending 4 years, with the being shipped all over, not having a say in where you're going to be.
During those 4 years that you served, did you get to go back home and visit, or were you always either in Chicopee or the other place?
Well, I got home quite a bit. I mean, it was only from Chicopee back home in upstate New York was maybe an hour's drive. It was more than that. It's about 90 miles, I think. So yeah, I got home a lot of weekends, most weekends. So it wasn't as, when I was in Texas, I was not home for a year, but once I got to Westover, I was home all the time.
Who did you visit when you came home?
My parents, and my sister was married, and she was living in the area, so spent a lot of time with my sister, and my brother, my family. But I stayed in the house that I was born in, lived in. And my father was a machinist. He had a nice machine shop, and welding equipment and all that stuff. So I could go home and change the engine in my 57 Chevy, or work on major projects on the cars.
Did anyone else in your family serve?
No.
No, only one. How did your siblings feel when you told them you were going to go in?
I think my sister, my older sister, she was sad, because we were pretty close. I don't remember. I remember talking to my one of my older brothers about when I was going in. I wanted him to come with me, and he wasn't hearing it. I said, "Come on, we'll go in the Marines together. We'll be buddies. They have a buddy system. They'll make sure we all go to the same place." He's going, "I'm not with you on this." So my brother Richard did not. listened to me, thank goodness.
All right. Now we would like to thank you for your service and our participation in the Witness to War project. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
It's been fun.
Thanks.